Hello and welcome back to Pandemic Playground with Dave. So today we have another experiment for you guys, and that is playing around with Clang. Alright, so playing around with Clang is never ideal, but it was something I wanted to try based on our previous experiment with the hover engines. So I didn't even realize there was something called the Clang Drive, and that's pretty much driving with Clang, or producing power or momentum, either forward, backward, left and right, whatever the case is, to kind of drive a rover or ship or anything like that. So with that said, we have the rover from the previous experiment with the hover engines mod, and to kind of test it out a little bit more, what we can do is take the forward hover engines that's on the back, and let's try to do apply force to center, and we can leave align to gravity on or off, doesn't really matter at this point, I believe. So we can turn these off, so we can only apply force to the center. So maybe this will work out a little bit better than it did previously. So again, my button 3 and 4 is to start the timers, and 4 is to stop the timer blocks that attaches and detaches this hinge here. So in 3, 2, 1, boom. Alright, so it actually gives us a nice little forward drive. It's actually pretty quick, 105 meters per second, so that's not too bad, but there's a lack of control here, as you see there. So it definitely worked out a little bit better by putting the line to the center. It gave us a lot of forward momentum, but again, there was not a lot of control there. So if I were to kind of do that again, for example, so basically if I hit 3 to start it, it gets that humming noise, that clangy noise. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and then I have to hit it multiple times. There we go. Can we stop it? Oh, we could stop it. So there's some kind of controls to this, just a tiny bit. So here we go, we can get this going forward. There we go. So we could spin it left and right a little bit, and then if we need to, we can stop it. And I hope I stopped it. Doesn't look like that I did. There always seems to be that I gotta press the start and stop several times and just hope for the best. So that is pretty much a bit of your Clang Drive, which is pretty interesting. So let's turn off the thrusters this time and give that a shot. And it seems like it works pretty well. And I guess the humming noise will help you determine if it's on or off. And the humming noise is probably just the hinge attaching and detaching, to be honest. So another thing that seems quite interesting on here is that every time I turn on the timer block, the thrusters are turned on too, which I do not have that set up that way. So yeah, our timer block says to trigger now and detach, and the other one says trigger now and attach. So that's quite odd. It could be because of the script. So if we did, you know what we can do instead is just get rid of them, right? So here we go. Now we can test in 3, 2, 1. We go forward momentum, and I think I stopped it. I'm not sure. And we go 105 meters per second here. See if I can stop. Okay, we can't stop because we don't have. Oh no, interesting. Oh no, it's still on. If I can stop it, I think I need to attach it and stop it. Here we go. I think I stopped it for the most part. It's a bit hard to stop, but I guess that kind of works. So there is a bit of control here. So that's an interesting test here. It's a bit odd to have, but this only exists with the hover engine mod on, and this is without thrusters. Alright, so we're gonna let this guy go on its own. And yeah. Alright, so interesting enough, that worked out pretty well. So the biggest question there on after is basically, how can we do this in vanilla? without a mod. I had a few ideas, and one being the clang motion that I normally get using a piston and a hinge, which is pretty much this here. So how I did this is basically add on a bit of a rotor system first, and then add 2 blocks, and the reason for that is so we can place the piston right over here, right in the middle, between the end of it and the piston head. So right here's the center, and right below it, or the piston head itself, is where I'm going to put the hinge block itself. And to cause the clang, we need a block here and here, and the hinge itself needs a block. So that way when we hit reverse on this guy, so let's just get rid of this for now as an example so we don't get too confused. We could go right here, go to our hinge, and hit reverse. But before we do that, we need to make this rotor torqueless. Hinge here, hit reverse, or not reverse, hit the velocity forward or backwards depending on which way it is, and it just causes some clang. So I've experienced this with a lot of things that I've done with a hinge and a piston. So for whatever reasons, when you do it like this, it causes some kind of spinning momentum. So why not use that for a wheel system so we can have a bit of what we got, a bit of something we called Clang Drive. So I took this concept, and it looks like it spins really fast. I took the concept and made these little guys, looks a little bit like tractors. And the first initial one I created was actually 2 clang systems here in the front, so 4-wheel drive, and just the torqueless ones in the back, just to see how it works. Based on the speed of it, I would assume that it'd go pretty fast. But however, when I'm in it, turn on the power, it either doesn't go or it goes really slow, as you see here. But if I bring it up with my gyros and let it go down, you see that it stops, or it just doesn't really work out too well. So it goes and travels at like 1 meter per second or close to 2 meters per second. And honestly, just rotating the rotors with torque is a lot faster than this Clang Drive here. And I really thought it was going to move quicker because based on the speed it's doing on the test there, but it definitely is not pulling enough weight there. So maybe because it's just forward wheel drive and it's pulling everything, that's why it's not working right. So let's add a total of 4 of these Clang Drive systems to a rover base. Alright, so taking the concept of the front wheels and add it to the back wheels, so now we have 4 total of these guys. We can activate them by all hitting a reverse on the hinge to go forward. So let's just hit the reverse. As you see there, everything just kind of clanged it out a little bit, and now we have forward momentum. And this one, with all 4 of them being the same, it moves a lot faster than the previous one. It nearly almost double its speed in some ways, but doubling 1 meter per second, it's just 2 meters per second. So that just becomes pointless. So this is an interesting Clang Drive system, but it definitely doesn't move as fast as the hover engine Clang Drive in that way. So how much further can we take this in some ways? Alright, so another Clang Momentum that I'm aware of that is pretty quick is actually using a door. So when you place a door, such as this for small grid, and if you add a piston with some power, of course. Okay, so we add a piston here, and we can add a bit of a battery. Let's use a small one for now. And what pretty much happens if you hit the piston to go reverse, this thing goes and it's going to be sent flying. So I've seen this before, which is pretty cool. So just using this in that sense, for an example, we're going to hit reverse, and you see how that just flies away and it broke the door. But that was some really quick momentum. So if we apply that theory in terms of the wheels, then we could build something similar to that here. So this was another test I'd done. We put a rotor here, and I think we need to do maybe 2 of them here as well, because the door is a little odd numbered as well. So if you want to put it in the center, it'll be like that. No, not like that. We're off by 1. We actually should be lower. Well, honestly, it's not going to matter too much, so we'll just leave it as that. So from here, we can put the piston right here. And we can pretty much make sure it goes torqueless for the rotor. We've done for the other ones. And for the piston itself, that's where we do reverse. And it causes clang. And as you see here, this clang momentum seems to be really quick. The only problem I have with this is that there's no real way to put a wheel here without causing, or without having the piston or this whole piece kind of hit something on the floor. So as you see how much it stretches down to the ground, that's what I was trying to avoid, so we can get the wheel to spin. But unfortunately, it's too big to get this Clang system running with this wheel. So I wouldn't be able to put it into a rover, but if I could, I do wonder how fast would this pretty much go. It probably won't go too fast, just like the other one, based on weight. And I think in order to do this, I have to find a way to convert this side to a large grid wheel. So as you know, the large grid wheels are much bigger. So I gotta find a way to attach one of those guys on here. If I could, like a 5x5 wheel. No, that might be actually too big. So a 3x3 wheel, large grid, would be perfectly fine. So if I could attach it onto this and do that, then that would be wonderful. But I don't think I can do that on here. So would have to kind of think it through. But it looks like it's slowing down a bit too, and it kind of peeks through the door. So again, it just causes a bit of a lengthy up and down, so it's definitely gonna hit the ground in that way. But looks like it's slowing down for some reason. It just pretty much stopped, and it's just going right through the door. So the one I tested here, just to try to make it as compact as possible, I use a hinge system like I'd done with the other system prior. And this one, basically what I would do is just hit reverse or velocity positive, and it just hits the door slightly with the piston, and it causes that spin. But once again, as you see, it's peeking out a little bit. If we put that on a rover, that's just going to blow up once it hits the ground. So it's a little difficult to make a system like this turn into a rover to kind of test out. But the way it's spinning, it looks very similar to this one here, or this one here. And as we saw in the rover, it just didn't really pick up too much speed. And it's just not reliable. As you see, some of them are slower, some of them are faster. And it's just odd in some ways. So if I took these things out, as you see here, I'm not even on it, and it is quite slow. It's definitely not as fast as I thought it would be. So actually this one, for some reason, is moving almost 5 meters per second, which is a lot better. But if I just turn on the rotors to spin on its own with torque, pretty much a lot faster than what it is here. So that experiment was interesting, but I was hoping for it to actually be able to pick up speed. But I'm sure there's so much other Clang systems out there that I might not be aware of. So feel free to drop a comment down below and let me know what other ways we can cause a lot of momentum with Clang, and a compact version of it, so we can add these 5x5 small grid wheels to kind of see if we get some momentum going and push a fairly small rover like our kind of tractor systems here. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed this experiment with Clang Drive. And if you made it this far in the video, you know what to do. Hit that thumbs up, like the video. If you have not done so yet, consider subscribing to the channel, hit that notification bell. Comments also help the channel, so feel free to drop one down below. And of course, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.